Hey guys, so I wanted to come on here really quickly and talk to you guys about how I manage the design process and revisions for my clients. So I'm a graphic designer, a web designer, an illustrator. So I always work with clients on a number of projects that, we may have revisions where we have to go back and forth before we get to the final product. So the way that I manage that, the first step is to make sure that I set clear terms in the beginning. So when I present them with their official invoice or contract, I make sure that I have gotten all of the project details and I have that spelled out in the contract and on the invoice, whether you do a contract or an invoice. The invoicing system that I use, Square, allows you to put some of those details in your line items. So I always make sure that I spell out how many revisions are going to be included in that price. So if I give a flat rate for something, I always make sure that this is going to that I spell out that this is going to take 3 to 5 revisions or whatever it may be. So you don't want to just have unlimited revisions because you'll just go back and forth, back and forth. So make sure that you spell that out clearly in the beginning so that they see it in writing and you guys have went over it so that they understand their limitations with this price when it comes to revisions. And then you also will give them your hourly rate for additional revisions that are going to exceed what you guys set out. Because of course you're open to doing more revisions than you set out to do, but they have to understand that that is going to be an additional hourly rate for those additional revisions. The second step that I put into practice so that I can manage those client revisions is that I always provide my clients with numerous samples. So when I provide them the initial design samples, I always provide them more than one. That way, when they have their revisions, they can choose from the different samples that I can provide it. They can incorporate things from one and the other and merge them into one new design. So always make sure that you give multiple options so that your clients have a little bit more to choose from, and they can choose from designs that you have already created. So that may eliminate a lot of redesigns like completely from scratch. So provide at least 3 to 5 samples. Like when it comes to a logo, I may even go as far as 6 different samples. And it may be variations on one design idea, but I always like to do at least a couple of completely different ideas so that there are different things that they can choose from. So the third step is to make sure that you are practicing active listening when you're going over the design samples that you gave your client. So you want to make sure that when they talk to you about the revisions that they want, that you are really listening, that you're asking clarifying questions so that you are clear on what revisions they are looking for. And that's going to eliminate a lot of back and forth when you really know what their vision is, what they're looking for. Then you can make sure that you can implement those ideas in your second draft that you provide to them. So once you receive that feedback from your client, I don't usually just give them one sample. So in the beginning, when you give them a few different ideas, I do the same thing when I give the revisions. So once I listen to what they want, I understand what the revisions are going to look like, I still don't just give them one. I'll give them a couple of different variations just to ensure that we have some things to choose from and we know what we want and we can come up with something from there. Of course, they do have the option of having some more revisions from that as well. But if you give a few different samples, then that's going to kind of eliminate a lot of the back and forth. So the next step is to make sure that you seek feedback and clarification often and early in the process. So if you're unclear of what your client wants, what their vision is, what their mission is, what they're looking for, don't just try to wing it and come up with something. It's not going to appear that you don't know what you're doing. It's going to appear that you're really thorough and you want to have something that's going to work for your client. So if you're unclear about anything and you have questions, then definitely make sure that you get all of that answered and resolved early on so that you can present them with something that's going to work for them. I also love to educate my clients. Sometimes people have ideas that are not within the constraints of what's needed for that particular project. For example, logos, if you're looking to really scale and be a corporate entity in the marketplace, then you definitely want to make sure that your logo is vector and that you can scale it as large or as small as needed. You may want to do a billboard one day, and if you don't have your logo as a vector file, then it's going to get grainy and pixelated when you start to expand things. So sometimes clients just don't have that knowledge. They don't have the knowledge of certain design constraints and parameters that need to be put in place. So I make sure that I educate my clients so that they're aware that this may not look exactly like what they envision, but they may understand why. And so in the long run, it's going to benefit them more because they're going to be able to really utilize these design pieces within the marketplace and scale it to the best of their ability. So make sure you educate your clients, talk to them, make sure that you are explaining things along the way of the design process, keep them in the loop, make sure that you are, letting them know where you are within the timeline and all of those things. So the next thing is to make sure that you are open to compromise. So I have seen a lot of designers and artists who really get protective of their ideas and their work. And I do understand that because I'm an artist, and sometimes you really want to see them use something that you know is going to work. But you are not the client. That is not your business. And you want to make sure that you are not taking things so personally and making sure that you're open to what they want and what they need. And you're coming up with something that's going to work for them and that you're also happy with as well. So be open to compromise. Definitely don't try to just force your ideas or your favorite concept on them if that's not what they want. Because for me personally, my number one goal is to make sure that my client is happy. This is their business that I'm bringing to life. This is their mission. And so making sure that they are happy is my number one goal. So the last process in making sure that things are seamless in your design process and revisions is to make sure that you document everything, all of the changes, all of the communications that you have. A lot of times you do have meetings over the phone. I do get that, but I make sure that I take detailed notes, and a lot of times I'll even send over an email recapping what we discussed just to make sure that we're on the same page. And then also when you make those revisions, I do a lot of times try to keep multiple files so that I don't overwrite some of the original designs that we had, because a lot of times you'll find that you may do something and then your client says, well, I don't think that works. I want to go back to our previous design and what we did. And so if you keep those different files and you document the process, then it'll be easy for you to pull back some of those older files, and you won't have to go back and try to recreate things and, start from scratch, and it'll save you some time. So make sure that you are really organized with your design files, with your emails, and you document everything and keep all of your older design files throughout the process. Okay guys, so those are all of my tips to help you manage your client revisions during your design process. So hopefully you found this helpful. And as always, feel free to go down in the comments, leave any additional tips that you have in your business and with your clients, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.